Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I want to talk about PhD mistakes or 5 reasons why doing a doctorate might have been a mistake for you. So, if you don't know me, I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There are so many people that helped me out to get through graduate school that I wanted to pay the favor forward. It was really tough and it was a difficult thing to do, but I got through. And so I wanted to help out as many people as I can. So, with this, what are these mistakes? So, first of all, this is going to be geared particularly for people that are doing any sort of graduate work and particularly doing a PhD. I think it makes sense to sort of focus on that. And it's going to apply to all disciplines, but it definitely applies more to PhD in business administration or the social sciences, sociology, psychology, and things like that. Simply because that's what I know, and I think this probably applies a little bit more, but it applies in all the different disciplines. So just take that as sort of a grain of salt when when we're going through this. So the first thing I think is very important, and all of these things are kind of things that I believed at one point in my career. And now I've come to the realization, oh boy, this is not stuff that, that changes in any sort of way. And so the first thing is thinking that the PhD will allow you to become an executive or advance your sort of business career. So if you're thinking of doing a PhD or a doctorate of some sort, any sort of research degree, whatever it is, if you're thinking of it as a way to get into a business career, so go into consulting, maybe so management consulting, for example, to go into executive careers. An executive would be you are chief operating officer, chief executive officer, anybody that's part of a C-suite of a major corporation. I would probably persuade you not to think about it in that sort of way. It's not the easiest way to get into those particular roles, and it's probably the most costly way to get into those particular roles. And it's also geared for you not to go into those particular roles. So, for example, a PhD is a research degree, so it's going to allow you to get into doing research in a university or a think tank or a research institute or something like that, right? So it's training you in a different way. It's training you to become analytical. But if you want to become a business executive, it makes sense for you to do degrees that allow you to become a business executive, like an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration, or, if you're a little bit more older, senior, an executive business, a Master's of Business Administration, or sometimes people do a law degree, although that kind of can get you to become an attorney or barrister, depending on what country you're from, go in a different direction and sort of lead you in that different direction. The reason is that there is a lot of forces that are pulling you away from becoming a business executive. It means that a lot of the stuff that you're going to learn during your PhD is not going to apply that much. It's going to give you some legitimacy, just like those other degrees. And sometimes it might make a little bit more of a difference because you have a terminal degree and people sort of might recognize that as a really good qualification. In some countries, it's really well recognized. And some business executives and sort of technical businesses do have a PhD, but it's not necessarily the easiest way to get there. So I think SAP, which is a large sort of statistical software kind of company, I think their executive has a PhD, and it's not uncommon to see that from different different businesses. But it's just it's a really tough way to get into it. And you're going to have to make the choice anyways, if you're going to do that, to sever the ties with academia and go into a different direction. So why not sort of train yourself to go into a different direction, unless you're doing something analytical in going into, maybe you want to go into pharmaceuticals. So then you do maybe a chemistry PhD in pharmaceuticals, and then you might do an MBA after that. That's really common to see that kind of career progression, but to do a social science or PhD and go in that that direction. It's less common, although you're starting to see it a little bit more. That some of the businesses like Facebook and Google and a lot of the software companies are starting to recognize that particular degree as something that is really good for their organization, because they're doing what's called people analytics, where they're actually looking at people and how they make decisions and behave, which is actually really positive. But in general, you probably want to pursue something like an MBA if you're going to become a business executive and you want to go in that direction, right? So the second thing is when you're doing a PhD, and it might be sort of feelings that it's not exactly the best thing for you, is that when you start thinking that, oh, if I just complete this one project that I'm working on, then it's all going to be good because then I can do whatever I want to do. It doesn't work that way. When you're working on a project, they tend to reappear, because what ends up happening is becoming known for that project that you've worked on. You start getting cited, and then people will ask you to, maybe it is, to do work on a paper that's similar to that particular thing, or, you start building a name for that particular thing that you did long time ago. And you can't get away from it. It's really hard to get away from that particular topic once you've worked on it and you sort of built a knowledge base in that particular thing. So there's a whole big literature. Dan Leventhal and Michael Cohen worked on this, and it's called absorptive capacity. And it's an idea that is become bigger in economics. And the idea is once you build sort of a knowledge base, it gets easier to work in that particular knowledge base. So that's what ends up happening with a PhD, is you start going in that particular direction, you start building sort of a knowledge or understanding in that particular direction. And it's hard to get out of that because you've built up sort of an infrastructure around yourself in that particular topic. The third thing that I think that a lot of people, and it's maybe a symptom of like, this is maybe not for you. If you start thinking that the dissertation is going to write itself, or you don't have to do any sort of writing and it will just get itself done, that is a really strong signal that it's maybe not for you, or the direction that you're going is not for you. The dissertation is your job, and writing the thesis is your job, and you have to start writing and get that thing done. So if you're thinking like that, it's a pretty strong signal that maybe something should be done in sort of your career progression. But if you are thinking like that, everybody thinks like that a little bit at some point in their career, and on a regular basis, people think like that. But if it's becoming so weighted down on you that you can't get anything done, and it's been like a month that you haven't been able to get anything done, well, that's a really strong signal that there is something else going on behind the scenes, and you should maybe really consider what you're doing. And if you haven't started working on your thesis and you're thinking it's just going to write itself, get started, get done, get going. Just start writing the darn thing. That's all you have to do. So the fourth thing that I think is really, this is something that really will pull you down and will sort of stop your PhD career, is trying to be perfect with everything. You're not going to know everything in a topic, and there's lots of different reasons why that is the case. So, the environment, for example, is going to be constantly changing. There's new knowledge that's being produced. You forget a lot of stuff. I mean, I've learned a lot of stuff over the years, but I've also forgot a lot of stuff, right? And that's a totally natural human being thing to do. There is also the idea that there's more people that are coming into a particular topic, particularly if you did something that was interesting. Well, lots of people are going to be investigating that area, right? So there's going to be a lot more people emerging, and you're going to have to understand all these kind of things. And so the idea is that as soon as you think you're going to become, the thing that you're working on is perfect, you're probably going to spin your wheels and you're not going to get anything done. So the best thing that you can do is just do your best, but you don't want to do any more than your best, right? Like, don't keep working on something. Just try to get the darn thing done and get it out the door. If you're thinking that you're going to be perfect and that everything that you do is going to be perfect. Well, you're not going to get done. And it's probably not the right career for you because there's nothing that's perfect. There's no research, there's no ideas that are ever perfect. There's always ideas that need work. And so this is kind of the fifth thing that I see a lot of times is that sometimes people will do a PhD thinking that they're going to be an expert and that they're going to know absolutely everything in this particular area. And, that they don't take sort of criticism very well when and this happens a lot as we sort of progress. The beginning of your PhD career, it's hard to take criticism, and it's still hard. It's hard for everybody. But as you sort of progress, you realize that criticism is just part of the process. And so when you start out, you think that you're the expert, you know absolutely everything, you've studied all this kind of stuff. But you're not. There is a lot more people that are smarter than you, and you're not going to know everything. So it's okay to say, I don't know. The people that struggle the most are the people that say, you know what, I know everything and everything works the way that I think it's going to be. But the people that actually get things done and they are doing a good job and that people actually prefer to be around them in the career is when they just say, I really don't know. I wish I knew, but I don't know what's going on. And, the response is that you should be, I just don't know, but I'm willing to learn. And that is the foundation of science. If you didn't know that, the whole history of science is recognizing we don't know a lot of stuff and we're just willing to learn what it is or how this thing actually works. And if you don't do that, it's going to push a lot of people away. If you just say that you're an expert, you're going to appear like a jerk. I guarantee it. If you just you're not willing to input or receive inputs or receive knowledge or ideas, and you're just going to appear like a jerk and nobody's going to want to work with you. And the other thing is that, you're not going to be able to take the feedback that you get from the peer review process, the scientific process. So if you have these sort of tendencies, or if you're dealing with this kind of stuff, you might want to really evaluate what's going on with you and your career, and as well as maybe reevaluate what you're doing with a PhD and whether it actually makes sense for you. If you can deal with these things and think that these are sort of things that you can change in your life, then yeah, it might work for you, right? It definitely can work for a lot of people. But if this is something that you can't let go and you can't sort of deal with and struggle with, then you might want to consider other possible opportunities that are out there. There's many opportunities that are wonderful that allow you to do the things that you want to do. You just have to find them. All right, so if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, do subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye.